Hello, I am Jake Collins, and this is my commentary for the 13th episode of the Mummy the Animated series, The Maze. I've never actually sat and watched this whole recap through on DVD before. I've always fast-forwarded it, thinking, I don't need to see all this again. But I did sit and watch it through just now because I was wondering if it actually contained just bits of recap from the first couple of episodes and the previous episode, the puzzle. And as it turns out, it does have little bits of the quest, not that it was much of a linear quest, as I keep saying, from the whole series, which was quite nice to see. Finding different things, finding the extra scrolls with the cloud people, for example, was in there. But mainly it was a recap of the very beginning of the series, and then what happened in the previous episode with the puzzle of Horus. Because indeed that is what we need to know here. The title of this episode, The Maze, obviously refers to the catacombs beneath Paris. Here we see one of Imhotep's random powers, but he will actually use this again in Season 2 with some rhinos. I'm not sure if there's any other animals who get the treatment in Season 2, but calling upon the beast within to turn this little monkey into a ferocious, larger monkey. And here's the opening sequence, so here's my review. Pretty much back to where it should be after a huge wobble, 8 out of 10. This second half of the 2-episode season finale is a huge improvement on the first half. The inclusion of the Minotaur is well judged and plays out very effectively. The decisions Alex makes in relation both to the Manacle and the Scrolls of Thebes show excellent wisdom and courage, as the Minotaur very aptly expresses it at one point. Alex really starts to come through as the hero of the show here, which I think is great, but of course he still relies on that compelling family teamwork to help him reach his potential. I find it particularly satisfying when Alex gives Imhotep a darn good kicking for the first time, and thankfully it certainly won't be the last. Yes, indeed. Sums up my overall feelings of the episode rather nicely, as indeed those reviews are designed to do. And here we have the conclusion of this monkey fight. What a shame Simon's not still around. He'd have loved to see Alex yanking the monkey like he did there, but he missed it, poor old Simon. And here we are reminded, are shown again, just how much control Alex does have over the Manacle now, or at least over Wajaisi Nahabek. We had needle spray earlier in the series. Now Alex creates a telescope spray to attack Imhotep and Weasler to quite good effect. And this, of course, is where we get something I've been referencing in other commentaries, Jonathan's moment. And as it turns out, it's Evie who says, "Good thinking, Jonathan." And Jonathan then reacts with, "Well, I do have my moments," and indeed, it's very true, he does, and that's one of them. But I've been trying to point out all the moments I can of his as we go through, because I do like to see them. I think there will be less of them in Season 2 as well, unfortunately. Again, Alex demonstrating good mastery of the Manacle there, rescuing the puzzle of Horus from smashing to pieces. But apparently, this next thing the Manacle does, this thing still has a mind of its own. This is Jonathan's moment, using the spray bottle there to stop Imhotep turning into a whirlwind. Good thinking, Jonathan. I do have my moments. And there's where Alex says to the Manacle, "There's a part of me that's going to be sorry to see you go." Now that's important because Alex makes some very important, significant decisions later in the episode in relation to the Manacle and the Scrolls of Thebes. And, well, perhaps we can tell from that, they're not spur-of-the-moment decisions. Alex is thinking already. There's a part of him that'd be sorry to see the Manacle go. And that's the part that's going to win out in the end. Another random power from Imhotep there, picking up the telescope and saying, "Show me what last they saw." And the telescope does. Very useful random power, that. And Imhotep is more familiar with modern day, or 1930s, Paris than you might suspect, as he immediately recognises the Opera House. I mean, how does he know that? Obviously, Weasley's been giving him good information about what Paris is like nowadays. And here's the bit where we get introduced to the catacombs. And that's going to be where the Scrolls of Thebes are, according to the Puzzle of Horus. And for once, as we are at the final episode of the series, the Scrolls of Thebes are actually there. Are we going to meet the Phantom of the Opera down there? No, just the Minotaur. But I think that's more appropriate for this particular cartoon, so that's a good thing. And as I say in the review there, I do like the Minotaur. And his appearance here, and also his two appearances in the finale of Season 2, both halves. What was I saying about Alex and the Manacle? This thing still has a mind of its own, Alex says, when it makes the gates, or whatever it is, fence, come out and grab Imhotep and Weasley. But really, I should think it's being controlled by Alex's subconscious there, rather than having a mind of its own, and Alex is more linked with the Manacle, becoming symbiotic with the Manacle, than he realises at this stage. But again, we'll be reminded of that moment and that possibility when he makes the decisions he makes later in the episode in relation to the Manacle. We had the shadow of the Minotaur there, and we're about to be introduced to him. Like Fadil, the Minotaur is a character who appears to be an enemy at first, but is actually a very significant ally, friend, as it turns out. And he's voiced, of course, by Kevin Michael Richardson, who you can hear in a lot of cartoons voicing characters with very deep, very striking voices, such as Panthro on the newer version of Thundercats, and the Anti-Fish on Earthworm Jim, maybe his most famous role there. And he does an excellent job here as the Minotaur, and adds a lot to the series. I like this bit here where Alex, again, calls upon his inner strength and does a great feat with the Manacle that he doesn't find easy at all, which is moving these stones out of the wall to create steps across the pit, which he's going to do in just a minute. Again, showing that Alex is starting to realise that the Manacle, as Ardith will say later in the episode, is an asset rather than a curse. Alex and the Manacle are very closely linked and can do great things together, and will do in the future. And Chris does some excellent voice work here. Some things are harder to move than others, but we have to get across from Mom. And so Alex drags himself to his feet and does just that. Absolutely brilliant stuff, heroic stuff there. Alex the Kid hero really coming through. And as I say in my review, coming through as the hero of the show, well, he certainly starts taking a lead in events which are upcoming, and that certainly does carry over into Season 2, Alex kind of being the lead for the show, which is great, because that works really, really well. And as I said in my review for the whole series, my general review, definitely it's the right direction for the show to take. And there, of course, Evie discovers that the Minotaur can talk in the voice of Kevin Michael Richardson. So a promise there of interesting times to come, learning what his deal is, how he came to be here in the catacombs guarding the Scrolls of Thebes, and what he's up to. Tut, the only mongoose with the nose of a full pedigree bloodhound, leading the way to Evie now. Yes, I guess we can accept that. And this is where they split up. Alex and Ardith go off to find the scrolls, and Rick and Jonathan go off to rescue Evie. And you get quite an interesting conversation between Rick and Jonathan. Ever wonder why we don't get along, says Jonathan. I mean, they don't really get along so badly in this animated series. Rick says there we don't like each other and we have nothing in common. I mean, they may clash at times, but I would quibble over we don't like each other. But as Jonathan points out, what we have in common is we both love Evie and Alex, and Rick certainly agrees with that. So quite a nice little moment there between Rick and Jonathan. You don't see that too often. Quite nicely inserted, quite well done. It hasn't actually happened on screen yet, but it's going to happen in a moment. Ardeth has nicked some of Rick's dynamite there to blow up the wall. But don't worry, we will see Rick using some of Rick's dynamite in a moment, so we won't be disappointed on that score. And yes, Alex and Ardith have found the Scrolls of Thebes. And look, you need the Puzzle of Horus to open the thing that they're in. It's a key as well as a map. So they could never have found the darn things on their quest all around the world without the Puzzle of Horus anyway. Unless they were going to find a copy that was in the Alexandria library that Alexander the Great had, and that wasn't the originals, and this is the originals of the Scrolls of Thebes. So that copy that Alexander the Great had could still be out there somewhere. Perhaps they should get back on his trail like they were trying to in the first place, and see if they can find that copy. But no, when the Scrolls of Thebes are destroyed in this episode, that's it, no more Scrolls of Thebes. I guess maybe the Alexander the Great trail went cold. Well, certainly it did as a dramatic device, anyway. There's a bit with Evie discovering that the Minotaur is a Magi. Quite interesting to see that all unravel, quite well done. As I say, he adds something to the show, the Minotaur, a good character to include. Here's this conversation between Rick and Jonathan before they fight off a load of skeletons. Working together effectively with their family teamwork. Yes, brothers-in-law are family too, and they can do compelling family teamwork as well. And here's the bit where the manacle is removed. I can't believe this thing is finally off, says Alex, sounding very pleased about it, for the moment anyway. Alex drops the manacle on the floor. Is that going to be the end of the matter? I think we can tell from how much of the episode is left. It's not going to be the end of the matter. And here comes the Minotaur to give Ardeth a good pasting. And this is the bit where Alex impresses the Minotaur so much with his wisdom and courage. And Alex impresses a lot of people, and indeed for good reason. He does a very good job with the Minotaur here, and he makes a very wise and courageous decision to put the manacle back on here to save Ardeth. Putting it back on to save Ardeth specifically. I mean, he may regret that decision slightly in times to come, but still a very brave decision to stick that back on, knowing how much he's been trying and waiting to get it off, and then just to stick it back on again in order to save Ardeth and negotiate with the Minotaur. That is a brave decision. And again here, wisdom and courage. If you're a Magi, Alex says to the Minotaur, you'll do the right thing. I'm trusting that you'll help us. And he lets the sword drop. And as the Minotaur says there, your wisdom and courage are admirable. Alex wins the day with his wisdom and courage, with his character, rather than with force. Which is very good. And now the Minotaur is definitely an ally, thanks to Alex, the great kid hero, and all the aspects about Alex that make him a great kid hero. And here the Minotaur tells Alex and Ardeth his story, and Napoleon is in it. Napoleon nicked the Scrolls of Thebes. All these historical figures who've had the Scrolls of Thebes, or at least possibly had the Scrolls of Thebes, and it was Napoleon who had them all along. Crikey me. But what does the Minotaur say? In order to protect the scrolls, he needed to be transformed from a normal Magi warrior into the most powerful of beasts, a Minotaur. I mean, was that really the only option? Surely there was something else they could have done. Well, there's only one thing for it now. I need to be transformed into a Minotaur. I mean, we've all had moments like that in our lives, haven't we? And here's where Alex rushes in and really comes across as the lead hero, I suppose. And we see just how good he is with the Manacle now. He uses it there to levitate Weasler and slam him into the ceiling, and to attack Imhotep with this rock here, which Imhotep doesn't like at all. And this is where we get this exchange between Alex and Imhotep, and we don't have enough exchanges like this between Alex and Imhotep in the series as a whole. Imhotep saying, your mastery of the Manacle is impressive. Join me and we will rule the world together. And of course Alex says, no, we're not going to do that. And Imhotep's going, as you wish. And that's a good place to include a little exchange like that between Alex and Imhotep. But I'm not saying there should be more to it at this stage. It's the right place to put it. It's the right length. They say the right things. That's fine. But there should be more of Imhotep trying to tempt Alex over to the dark side in the future, and there is an episode kind of about that, but it's really not done in the right way, and it doesn't follow up on this little exchange between Alex and Imhotep in the way it should, which is a bit disappointing. But here, in this episode, it's well done, it's well placed. And again, Alex uses wisdom and courage here. He levitates that torch to destroy, to burn the Scrolls of Thebes in order to keep them out of harm's way, so nobody bad can use them, so Imhotep can't use them to gain control of the Manacle. And for the first time, Alex actually physically attacks Imhotep there by kicking him, forcing Imhotep to let him go. I mean, that really is Alex coming through, I think, as the lead hero, making that courageous decision about the Manacle and the Scrolls to destroy the Scrolls, and then giving Imhotep a darn good kick. So that's great to see. But as you see here, Alex, as I have said before, isn't unbelievably heroic. He still needs the help of his friends and family there to get him out of trouble, to help him out with Imhotep and the skeleton warriors there. So Alex hasn't burst through as the only heroic force in the show and become too unbelievably heroic. It's still compelling, exciting family teamwork a go-go, but I think from this point on, Alex really is the lead hero and the lead character and the lead protagonist on the screen. It's fair to say, as I said in my review, which, as I always say, is an excellent thing for the show. And there we go. The denouement really is over, and here's a bit of a plenary, and here's where Ardeth starts talking absolute nonsense. Much of Season 2 is taken up with Ardeth talking absolute nonsense. Of course, Evie has here the remaining fragment of the scrolls, which actually, as it turns out, has Shimin Rapidu on it, but we'll have to wait a while to find that out. But here's Ardeth talking nonsense to Alex. Now that Imhotep can't possess the Scrolls of Thebes and control the Manacle, he will surely want to destroy the world. Unfortunately, starting with you, Alex. What a load of rubbish! Imhotep doesn't want to destroy the world at all. Everything he does in Season 2, starting with trying to resurrect Anaxunamun, of course, is all about conquest, not destruction. And of course, as has been mentioned and everybody knows, here's where Ardeth says to Alex, Alex, you saved my life. I mean, what a mistake to make, eh? And in return, I'm going to train you in the ways of the Magi. And the Magi training will help you to focus and control the Manacle's power and defeat the mummy. Well, that makes a lot of sense in the context of the show, and in many ways, and certainly on paper, it really is the right direction for the show to go in. But actually, practically, on a personal level, Alex should say, "No thanks, Ardith, I'm off to China instead." That episode, unsurprisingly, was written by Tom and Greg, as, of course, was the previous episode. The puzzle, the first part of this two-part season finale, obviously was going to have been written by those two. And, well, they did a good job in many ways, and a not-so-good job in other ways, particularly with the puzzle, as I have now expressed in full and frank terms. Hopefully you'll join me again soon, as I express in full and frank terms my thoughts about the opener of The Mummy Season 2, Secrets of the Magi, A New Beginning, Part 1.